3 to 5 year home flip game plan. I want to break down this strategy I've been pulling off with my clients for quite some time now, that I'm finally revealing to everyone to kind of just put out there. But before we get into all that, if you could please like, subscribe, share, comment, all of those things that help this channel get traction and viewership on YouTube and the search engine, so people can find this valuable content that is local to Wichita. And in some ways you could do it in other markets, but I know it in Wichita very well, based on my personal background in history and experience. And so I call this thing the 3 to 5 year flip game plan. And really what it is there's three different things I'll kind of go over just to kind of break down this strategy and this game plan that I use with a lot of people. And this comes from my construction background and my house flipping background. And where I get this knowledge and expertise was not just only from my personal experience, but also from clients' experience that I've helped to also do the same thing. So I haven't really fully put this thing together, even though I have done it plenty of times. This is kind of my launch into offering this for any clients that want to work with me. And to give you a little bit of a history of where this comes from, I'll give you my background a little bit, then I'll get into how we do the 3 to 5 year home flip game plan on your personal residence on everything. So I have a construction background. I started out as a trim carpenter, working for a guy that did all kinds of work. We did siding, decks, and just about everything carpentry related, but our specialty was in trim carpentry on the interior side of things. And I worked for him for, I think, 2 or 3 years after college. Learned a lot, did a lot of projects, but then he kind of got slow and I started to go out on my own and find my own jobs, my own situation. Started out as a handyman doing work, then got into insurance work and did a lot of roofs, siding, and windows. Like I would personally do them and manage the jobs on it all. But then I got into doing work for flip house guys. So I'd be the one doing the work. I'd go knock out flip house projects, it's 24, 25. And I would go take a project that normally takes a month and get it done in like a week or two. I'd be getting paid from these home flippers 15, 20 grand to go knock this stuff out. And I was happy as hell because I was willing to do the work, and I had the know-how and the willingness and the energy at that level, at that age, to go do the work. And so I got a lot of experience from working on houses, from the remodeling industry, construction industry, same thing with flipping houses. And that's where I got a lot of my feet wet, cut my teeth, whatever phrase you want to use it on, before I got into selling houses. Because as I started to flip these houses, I kind of realized like I need to go do this on my own, for myself, and got into flipping some houses of my own where I would do the work. And then I'd kick them over to a realtor when I couldn't sell them for sale by owner, on everything. And I eventually kind of got not annoyed, but I was like, I feel like this realtor could be doing more. So I went and got a license because I didn't think realtors knew that much or did that much. And I was kind of half right because a good amount of them still don't. But the truth is, like, the really good ones are really good and worth their weight in their gold. And the bad ones are really bad and are terrible and cause nightmares on everything. And so I got my license and I started selling my own flip houses. And so I learned a lot of these, the good things and the bad things on my own personal flip houses before I started coaching and teaching and taking on clients, for all their projects and everything, with it all. So that gives you a little bit of the background of like where I came from on this, that I've been developing this over the last, 11 years that I've been self-employed as an entrepreneur doing construction handyman stuff. I've had my license for the last 8 years. In the first year I sold 4 flip houses and took on 2 personal clients, just to give you like a background, a story of where this is coming from on everything. And so as I got into that, though, I figured out like, man, if I just committed to being a really good realtor and agent and still kind of did some flips and holds here and there, I could have a really good income and lifestyle of coaching and teaching other people to do the same thing and be successful in real estate, like with what I had learned and done as well. And that's kind of what I continue to do throughout my whole career on all this. And one of the most common things that I've been seeing, that I've been setting people up on, and what they really need help with, is what I call the 3 to 5 year flip game plan, where you make your money when you buy these things, and when you buy them right, in the right location, in the right home size, you put some renovation into them. When you go to resell them 3 to 5 years later, you're in a solid enough equity position. Even if you don't want to sell, you can, and you have enough spread in there. And in some ways, you could continue doing this every 3 to 5 years and making money over and over and over with it tax free, because of the way the capital gains works is you have to live in your personal home for at least 2 years before you don't have capital gains applied to selling your home. At least in Kansas, this is how it is. All of this applies to Kansas and Wichita. If you're watching this nationally in a different market, I can't necessarily speak to that market, what goes on there. I just want to lay down my 3 to 5 year home flip game plan for Wichita, Kansas, that I do for my clients consistently day in, day out, that I use my construction background, flipping background to help homeowners to do this with their own personal residence on everything. I work with some investors, not a lot. They got to be the right investor. I am still investing myself, and I still do this from time to time as it comes up. It's just that it can be so spotty. It's not really something to build a business off of, or it's very difficult to build a business off of for consistent cash flow and income and a career. So it's definitely an advantage and a knowledge that goes on with it all. And I'd be happy to work with you and talk with you on what project you're taking on. But there's 3 things that we got to look at whenever we're doing this 3 to 5 year home flip game plan. And the first one is like, it's got to be a house that's in the right location and it's got the square footage. Those 2 things are the biggest piece of this that I would say is making the right purchase decision, because you got to buy it right with the end in mind. Even though you buy it and you're going to put a little bit of work into it, what your end goal is what you always want to begin with the end in mind. So, if you're going to sell in 3 years, of everything, and you say, hey, at this point, I'm either going to sell in 3 years, I want to be in a position to sell in 3 years, you got to reverse engineer it, backtrack all the way through of what kind of work am I going to put into it and where am I going to buy at with everything. And even though I can't tell you for sure, like when you buy, how much it's going to appreciate over that 3 to 5 years, that window, I can tell you it always does. If you look at things from a 3 to 5 year window, they always appreciate where they're supposed to, especially when you buy them at the right price and you're taking into account what the renovations are going to cost you. Like, it's a very low risk situation when you start to quantify it and work with someone like myself who's done this before, who can give you legitimate real world examples and credibility of where I've done it personally. And I can show you where I've helped clients do it personally too. I can't entirely disclose everything on this video because of the way Kansas laws are with advertising and non-disclosure of what homes sell for and that kind of thing. But I can give you kind of some scenarios and examples. If we meet in person, I can show you this stuff, on my computer, when you're with me, but it's not something I can publicly release because there's a lot of regulation around being a realtor and advertising and the information we can release and can't release to everyone. So that's a lot of fun. But anyway, the first one is location and house size. Because if the house just simply doesn't have the square footage, there's not a lot we can work with there. If it has the right square footage and it's in a good location, and this is where I'll help you interpret all of the market data and neighborhood data, because even if you have access to it or you saw it, just like a lot of realtors have access to this data, but they can't interpret it, don't know how to read it, don't know how to make predictions, advice, good strategy from the data. So even if you had the data, it's still very confusing. It's still very hard to decipher, interpret, and make sense of it all, which is where we come in as an agent and say, like, here's a good purchase decision. Here's approximately what you're going to put into it. When it's done, here's about what it's worth. And then over the next 3 to 5 years, here's a reasonable expectation of what you can expect it to appreciate by, based on what we've seen on the averages, the standards, and all that. None of us could have told you that what was going to happen, when the pandemic went on and it appreciated like crazy. Everybody who bought a house before that is sure as hell happy they did, because it appreciated like crazy. None of us could have told you it was going to appreciate by that much, but we would have told you it appreciated. And that was just an awesome surprise with how much everything appreciated and went on with that. But even in a normal market, there's always opportunities. There's always situations where you can find the right location and the right house that you can live in, because a lot of these situations you're given preference as a homeowner to live in these houses. Now, I'm not saying live in a house where you got to tear out the kitchen and tear out the bathroom while you're living there, because I've done that and it sucks. And I really do not recommend that, living out of a mini fridge and basically in one room of your house. There's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Riverside. Like, I tore out the kitchen, I tore out the bathroom, and I do not recommend doing that. It was terrible. I was living in a construction zone for like a good part of my life. It was not fun on everything. So definitely don't get in over your head with these projects, because I've seen that too. That goes with people really trying to force or push a project or a budget or a situation. It's just not there. Just find a different deal, evaluate these objectively. Don't fall in love with the house. Don't fall in love from an emotional romantic level. This is a smart purchase decision that we're making, that like, yeah, we want to make sure we like the layout and we're going to live there and that kind of thing. We can't get overly emotional about these purchases, on everything. Otherwise it kind of just throws logic out the window and it doesn't make sense on an equation standpoint. Because you see this fairly often where people, buy houses where they're trying to force appreciation, or they're trying to make it something it's not. And that's where I come in from an objective standpoint of like, it's not my house I'm buying. Even if you're in love with it, I want to help you objectively like reason with this thing and look at it from a different set of eyes that knows how to actually play this game in reality, not speculation or taking a bunch of big dumb risks that I see people take in real estate. But it's like, that was just foolish to do from the start. And I can only help you so much on the listing side of things if I can help you on the buy side of things. If you screwed it up here to start with the buy and the purchase side of things, there's only so much I can do for on the listing side when you already screwed up the thing from the start and we didn't begin with the end in mind from the purchase side of things. So, that's where I really like to focus on the purchase side of your situation and your journey with owning a home, is because when you buy them right, selling them isn't that hard because you have enough equity, you have enough spread, you're able to do what you need to do to get a home sold. Because in most situations, like marketing, condition, and price sell a home. I can guarantee you marketing, advertising, exposure, showings, and feedback. What I can't guarantee is the condition of your home or the price of what it will sell. But all houses sell based on those three things. And so usually if it's not selling, you just got to adjust price, or you have to be in a position, hopefully with enough equity or financial stability, that you can sit on it and ride it out. Because as you're seeing going forward, houses aren't selling in a day or two or a week. They're going back to taking weeks and months to sell. Doesn't mean the value's not there. It just means they don't sell as fast on everything. But if you plan this right strategically from the start when you bought it, you're going to be okay on the sell side of everything. But I see too many homeowners and realtors taking such a short-sighted viewpoint on this, that they're not really considering a 3 to 5 year game plan for the purchase you're making, so that this will work out on everything in the long term. Regardless of the market, interest rates, everything that's going on, we've seen statistically when you make the right purchase decision, 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to be sitting in a spot where you have options. You have ability, you're okay, like in that spot. So that's what we really take into account whenever we're going to make this purchase decision. Not just how much do you like the house, is it pretty, are you comfortable with the layout? Like, is it going to make sense over time based on, what we've studied about that location and that neighborhood and how much it's appreciated in the past and how much it's expected to appreciate, because different locations, different neighborhoods appreciate and, maintain their value or go up in value differently than different ones. And that's where we help you interpret all of that data and that information to help you make smart purchase decisions. So that's the first one, is you got to buy it right, obviously. And a lot of that has to do with the location of the home size. The second one is the renovations, because this honestly, in my eyes, is probably one of the riskiest part. I can tell you what it's going to do on the resale side. I can tell you what to purchase for. One of the hardest things to manage is the middle and the construction costs and labor costs and contractors and a lot of the risk that comes with all of that. But that's where my construction background kicks in, kind of get an idea of like how things are done right and what things cost. And, those are both two very variable like situations or answers to that. Because, I used to be a general contractor, have my general contractor license, know the code, know what's acceptable, what's not. But there's things above and beyond just code that is, best practice for building a house or best practice for finishing a house and the condition, and a lot of those arguable subjective things that aren't necessarily a safety hazard, but they do have to do with, the resale of the house and the quality of the work that's done and some of those things that go with that. And so that's where my construction background can help you consult on when you're going to look at a project or a fixer up or a house that needs some updating. It can really give you advice on what's important, what's not, what it should cost, what it shouldn't. Because a good amount of these contractors are out there just to kind of see how much they can charge you, how much they can get out from you, instead of having a reasonable, number with everything. It's at the same time, you're not there to just screw the contractor down as low as you can on everything. Pay a fair price for fair work to get quality labor and material that's in there, because you don't want to go with the cheapest guy. You don't want to go with the most expensive guy. And, that has something to be said about when you're going to renovate these, do the work on them. You're not trying to just do the bare minimum, because I think people get the wrong idea when they hear flip or renovation, and they think they're just kind of half-assed or scrimped through on the work that's being done here. Like, you want to fix it quality, fix it right, fix it well. But you also don't have to go spend, like the HGTV shows and high-end designer materials and all the things that go into these homes. You want to make sure that you're updating it to what I call, market ready situations. So when we go to buy these houses, I'll kind of pull the comps, pull all the houses and show you, here's kind of what all the other houses are selling for, the condition they're in, the size they're in. Go look at the pictures of each one so you can see how much you need to update these or not. Because just because you over update your house doesn't mean you're going to get more out of it. Because a lot of times people do that because they get enamored by the pretty tile or the pretty flooring or all these things that are over the top. And, the suppliers are going to hate me for saying that, but it's the truth. A lot of these people way overpay for material that's nice and fancy and cool, but you don't necessarily get it back out of your house in a real estate investment. So it's nice. It's cool to have nice new things, but it doesn't always make sense financially for everything. And just know if you're paying for that, you paid for it because you wanted it, not necessarily because you're going to get it back out of the house on everything. So the renovation side of things is another big, variable to assess that I can help you assess with that. So the first one was location and home size. The second one is the number of renovations that need to be done. Sometimes it makes sense to add a bathroom. Sometimes it makes sense to add a bedroom or a basement window to put another bedroom down there in the closet. And so there's some things like that you can look for, that you can, add in bedrooms and bathrooms to increase value and size depending on the location and the area. And then the third one is obviously the resale in 3 years on everything. Is it a high turnover area? Are you seeing appreciation in other people doing this kind of work, like putting in work into houses? Is it an area where people maintain their houses? People take good care of it. You have good crime, you have good low crime rates. That's what I mean by that, not good crime, good low crime rates, good schools. All of the neighborhood amenities and features are well kept. Is it a pretty well taken care of neighborhood, essentially? Because the resale of your home doesn't just have to do with how much you fix up a home or how nice you made it. It has to do with, does everyone else in the area take care of their houses? Our houses in this area also selling. Our houses in this area also appreciating. Which does have to do with the location piece, like I said on number one, but you can assess number three is when you go to resell it in 3 to 5 years. I don't know the future for sure, but I do have a pretty good indicator of if this neighborhood's going to be taking care of itself or not on everything. And we study this based on which pockets, which opportunities in Wichita are appreciating, and are these things going well, and which ones are not. And that's where we take more of like a financial strategic advisor approach with helping you through your personal real estate. Not just like, hey, it's a pretty house, I like you, we're on a good friendship level, like let's work together. I look at it from a construction background, flipping background, 3 to 5 year game plan background, to where even if you don't want to sell in 3 to 7 years, you're at least in a good position to have options to do things with it from there. And you're getting ahead with your personal real estate and using this construction flipping background that I have, that not a lot of other, agents have or want to work with you on, because a lot of them have it, or a good amount have it, but they don't necessarily work with retail clients like I do. So that's a little bit of my niche that I've come to help people with, is that 3 to 5 year home flip game plan. I'd love to help consult you on it if that's something that you're looking into doing, especially if you're fairly handy on everything. It's a really good way for you to take your skills. If you're good at construction, fairly mechanically inclined, you can do a good amount of this work yourself, as long as you do it to a good quality, not homeowner quality. Like I've seen some people botch their houses on everything. But this is one really cool, good way you can get ahead in life and get some equity, get some additional income through your own personal home, put some work into it. And that's kind of the way you look at this, is like, you do get paid to do this work. It might be like, oh man, I go to work and then I got to go home and work on my house. And it's just like, I'm constantly working and it's just a lot to take on. But if you take into account, if you made 60 grand over 3 years from the appreciation of your home, you just raised your income by 20 grand in a year, tax free. So in all reality, it's more like 25 grand that you just raised your income every year from working on your personal home, from buying the right house, putting some work into it, and then being in a spot 3 to 5 years later to have equity and to have appreciation gain with everything going on. So, and that can happen in any market, any situation. These opportunities are out there, left and right, both on market and off market, auction, wholesalers, a lot of different places that we can find these deals. It's not just what's traditionally on the MLS. that is one route, one way to do it. But there's a lot more routes than just the MLS these days. And you can still have an agent, still work the realtor, still get paid, still have all those things situated appropriately. But this is kind of the signature plan, if you will, that I do for a lot of people that has them working with me to start and then coming back to me to work. If you'd like to explore more of this for yourself personally, and what that looked like to work with you and your situation, what you're trying to do, I'd be happy to consult with you, talk to you, get a lot of calls from these videos and outreach. And I love it. I love talking real estate. For people that are actually going to do something, don't get me wrong. It's not that I love just talking about real estate all the time. It's that I love helping people through these situations to find solutions on everything, because I realize the impact it has on their lives, especially when you could get ahead with your personal real estate financially. It does a lot for families and people and makes their lives better. So I appreciate you watching as always. Hopefully that kind of helps break down a little bit the 3 to 5 year home flip game plan that I have together. Check out any of my other videos. Shoot me a message. There should be links below on everything. Appreciate you watching as always. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. We'll talk to you later. See ya.